The Pittsburgh Steelers find themselves back at square one in their search for a complementary wide receiver after trading away George Pickens earlier this offseason. While the front office had hoped that pairing DK Metcalf with Pickens would create one of the most explosive receiving tandems in the NFL, that vision quickly unraveled. Metcalf, acquired in a high-profile trade with the Seattle Seahawks and extended shortly after his arrival, remains the centerpiece of the passing attack in Pittsburgh. However, his co-star has now taken his talents to Dallas, leaving a noticeable void on the outside and forcing the Steelers to reassess how they will surround their quarterback with enough weapons to remain competitive in a rapidly improving AFC North. With the 2025 season inching closer and training camp on the horizon, the pressure is mounting on General Manager Omar Khan and head coach Mike Tomlin to solidify their receiving core. The current depth chart, headlined by Metcalf, features an underwhelming mix of Calvin Austin III, veteran Robert Woods, rookie Roman Wilson, and a handful of depth pieces with limited starting experience. Austin is an electric slot receiver when healthy, Woods provides leadership and reliability but has clearly lost a step, and Wilson, while promising, is a day 2 draft pick who will need time to develop into a full-time contributor. None of them are immediate solutions as a WR2 on a contending team. That has led to the natural progression of speculation. The Steelers will need to explore external options, and more specifically, the trade market. With free agency mostly dried up and the top available names either aging or unfit for the Steelers' current scheme, it makes sense that analysts and fans alike are eyeing potential trades. One such proposal from Kobe Leibovitz of Athlon Sports has garnered attention, not necessarily for its viability, but for its boldness. The trade idea? Pittsburgh sends Calvin Austin, second-year cornerback Corey Trice Jr., a 2026 fourth-round pick, and a 2026 sixth-round pick to the Denver Broncos in exchange for wide receiver Courtland Sutton and quarterback Jarrett Stidham. The suggestion has captured the imagination of some Steelers fans desperate for a quick fix at wide receiver. Sutton, after all, is a former Pro Bowler who has posted consistent production despite playing in a rotating door of offensive schemes and with a slew of inconsistent quarterbacks. At 6 feet 4 inches, 215 pounds, Sutton would complement Metcalf beautifully, giving the Steelers two big-bodied, physical receivers capable of winning contested catches and bullying defensive backs. He also fits neatly into what the Steelers have historically valued at the position: toughness, vertical ability, and reliability on third downs. But upon closer inspection, the proposed trade begins to unravel. Let's start with the Broncos' perspective. Sutton is not just Denver's number one receiver, he is arguably their most consistent offensive weapon. In 2024, Sutton logged over 1,000 receiving yards on 135 targets and hauled in 9 touchdowns, serving as a security blanket for the carousel of quarterbacks that rotated through the Mile High City. With Bo Nix now expected to be the starter going forward, taking Sutton away from him would be akin to stripping a young pitcher of his best catcher in baseball. It would stifle his development before it even begins. Add to that Sutton's contract. While not team-friendly, it's also far from unmanageable. According to Over the Cap, Sutton ranks 25th in average annual value among wide receivers and 9th in cap hit for 2025. For a player of his production and reliability, it's a fair value, especially when considering the inflation in receiver contracts over the past 2 seasons. Denver isn't in salary cap purgatory and doesn't need to make desperate moves to free up space. There's also the issue of the Broncos' competitive window. With Nix on a rookie deal, Denver has a rare opportunity to build around a cheap quarterback contract, allowing them to allocate money to other premium positions. Trading away your most reliable wideout during that window simply doesn't align with the franchise's current trajectory. Denver isn't rebuilding, they're trying to compete in the AFC West, which remains up for grabs outside of the still dangerous Kansas City Chiefs. From Pittsburgh's point of view, it's hard not to see the appeal. Sutton would slide into the WR2 spot and immediately upgrade the offense. Jarrett Stidham, meanwhile, gives them another experienced arm to add to a quarterback room that has yet to stabilize. With Mason Rudolph, Skylar Thompson, and rookie Will Howard currently on the depth chart, none of whom are guaranteed to start Week 1. Adding a player like Stidham could provide insurance if the team fails to land Aaron Rodgers or another top-tier option. But again, the proposed compensation makes little sense when held up to scrutiny. Calvin Austin, while talented, has failed to stay consistently healthy or prove he can be a reliable starter in the NFL. He's undersized and profiles more as a gadget player or a return specialist than a full-time WR2. Corey Trice Jr., on the other hand, was a 7th-round pick in 2023 who missed his entire rookie season due to injury. While he has intriguing measurables, including size and length, he's still considered a developmental project. The 2 draft picks offered, 4th and 6th rounders, add some value, but they are far from premium capital. They represent the kind of ammunition teams use to move up in the later rounds, not the type of assets typically required to land a 1,000-yard receiver and a serviceable quarterback in the same deal. There's also the loss of Stidham to consider for Denver. While Stidham is unlikely to be a long-term starter, he serves a critical role as the backup and mentor to Bo Nix. Reports from inside the Broncos locker room have indicated that Stidham has been invaluable in helping Nix transition to the NFL game, acting as a bridge between the coaching staff and the rookie. Trading him away would leave Sam Ehlinger as the only backup on the roster, an option that doesn't inspire confidence. So what is the real issue with this trade? It's not just about value, it's about context. Pittsburgh is trying to win now. So is Denver. Both teams see themselves as potential playoff squads in 2025. The Steelers may have had a slight edge in terms of recent success, but the Broncos are betting on their quarterback of the future and a defense that remains among the league's most talented units. Expecting Denver to gut its offense by sending away its top weapon and quarterback safety net for an undersized receiver, a raw cornerback, and late-round picks just doesn't hold water. It's the kind of trade that might work in Madden franchise mode, where roster building lacks consequences. In real life, it could torpedo a young quarterback's development and damage locker room chemistry. That's not to say the Steelers won't make a move. Omar Khan has shown a willingness to be aggressive, as evidenced by the Metcalf trade. But any potential deal will likely need to be rooted in reality, both in terms of player valuation and team needs. If Pittsburgh truly wants Courtland Sutton, the offer will need to reflect what he means to Denver. That likely means parting with at least a 3rd-round pick and possibly including a young player with starting potential. Alternatively, the Steelers could wait to see if Sutton becomes available at the trade deadline, if Denver stumbles early and shifts toward a rebuild. Until then, expect Pittsburgh to keep working the phones, scanning the market for any receiver who can come in and make an impact alongside Metcalf. Whether through trade or free agency, the pressure is on to replace George Pickens with someone who can produce at a high level, because in the AFC North, average doesn't cut it. And trying to finesse your way into a franchise player with mid-tier assets won't cut it either.